Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 149 of Build Your Stash and Craft. This week we are going to make what I'm going to call long stitching embroidery. So there's rules for embroidery. I don't know the rules, I don't know the stitches, but I do like to play with the embroidery floss. And I have been watching Sonia Steptoe. She's doing a lot of really cool techniques that you can do with embroidery. So you can go over and check out her channel for extra little, really cool bits. But if you don't embroider, but you want to play with it and you want to make some things and you think you can't do it because you don't know the rules, that's okay, because you don't have to know the rules. So what we did was we got some embroidery floss and some needles and a hoop. And so what I did was I just took my hoop and I drew a circle so that I knew how big I could make my stitching, my picture, and then I drew a feather. And then what I did was I just took a piece of my fabric, laid it over top of the feather like this, and then I just traced it. Okay, so, and what I wound up with was, when I was done, I wound up with this. And I think it turned out really cool. I really like it. And these stitches go all the way from the center, all the way out to the edge. Now, I think you're probably not supposed to do that, but look, it looks okay. I think it looks really good, and I like it, and it's easy to do. And I don't know the special stitches, so this is how I made it, and I really like it. Now, what can you do with that? You can stick it in the middle of a frame. You can, and if you have an old picture that you don't like anymore, if you just don't like it and you've got it stuffed in a closet, gesso it, just paint the whole thing white and just place this right in the center. Now, if you have fabric glue, you can glue it down with fabric glue. Checking your fabric first. This one is a very thin fabric, and some fabrics your glue will soak through and leave marks. So you want to make sure that you check an extra piece of fabric to make sure your glue doesn't go through. But if it's a canvas and your glue does go through, you can always just stitch it on in the corners and maybe a little bit at the top in a thread that matches, your fabric, or in a thread that matches your piece, and go all the way around. So, but they look really cool in the center of a canvas. Just this, right in the center of a canvas with all of the blank space around it, it looks like a really nice piece of art. So that's what you can do with them. You can also turn them into a little booklet cover. And after I finished that one and I had drawn my picture and everything, I was sitting in my chair and I just didn't feel like trying to figure out, get up and get a piece of paper because I didn't have one with me right there. So I just drew around the bottom of my glue bottle right on my fabric. And then this one I did over towards the edge of my circle. So my circle came all the way out here, and so I drew it close to the edge, and that way I could fold it in half and make a little booklet. And this would make a cute little Christmas journal that you could give to someone. And then the back is very, very messy because, like I said, I don't know the rules, but this is a little bit too, you can't leave it like it is. So you can glue this onto a piece of paper. You can sew it onto another piece of fabric, maybe with some paper or some batting or something inside. And then, just sew around the edges and down the center to keep it all together. And then you have a cute little booklet. So, but it's just a nice thing to do while you're sitting. You don't have to know anything special to do it. So I thought that today we would just do a Christmas tree. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw around my circle so I know how big my Christmas tree can be. And it's a really quite fast project. I mean, I was really surprised. What I did with both of these, that's the other thing. I used all of my thread, like 6 strands, which I think you're supposed to split it down, but that's okay. But what I did was I did actually split it. I did 3 strands of dark green and 3 strands of red on this one, and I just, split it, took 3 off, and put them together so that as I sewed, it was kind of like variegated because I didn't have any variegated. This one I did 3 strands of tan and 3 strands of purple. And then I just used just purple, all 6 strands to go right up the center. So that's how I did that. But to do a Christmas tree, I think what I'm going to do is, I think I'm just going to kind of like draw half of the Christmas tree and then fold it in half like that, kind of. And then cut it out that way so that it's kind of symmetrical. Now I did this right in the center of my circle, but I don't have to put it on my fabric in the center if I want it off to the edge. Get a little stump there. And I'm going to cut this one out because I wanted to fold it in half. So instead of tracing it, putting my fabric over it and tracing it, I'm going to cut it out. And then I'm going to trace it onto my fabric. There we go. Now I know that that will fit. Let's see what it looks like. And I don't like it, so I'm not going to do it because that would just be a waste of my fabric and my floss. So I'm just grabbing another piece of paper here. And let's just try this again. And this time I'm just going to fold it in half and draw around my hoop, kind of halfway, so I know what size it can be. That's about half. I know I don't want it any bigger than that. And if you don't want it to be, you know, if you don't want your first one to be too big, you know, just, you can always make it just a little bit smaller. Let's see. We want the bottom the biggest. Probably going to wind up doing the same thing as I just did with the other one. Been a long time since I've done a Christmas tree. Oh, there we go. I like that shape. Okay, so then you're going to just have a piece of fabric. Now, you definitely want a piece of fabric that's big enough for your hoop. That's not really a rule. That's just a make it easier for yourself thing. So even if you don't want your fabric very big, you want your fabric, like let's say you just want a little strip, don't cut a little strip to put in there. Go ahead and make a piece that's big enough, and then you can cut a strip off each side of it and use those for something else later. But so I'm just going to take a piece of fabric, make sure that it's big enough to, well, if I can get my scissors to cut, make sure it's big enough to fit on my hoop. And I don't want a whole bunch extra. And this one I am going to do, and just do it in the middle, because I think I might make some kind of a plaque out of it. I think they're kind of cute. And if you have a canvas, you could also put it on your canvas with a brad in each of the four corners. That would be really cute. And you can make your own brads with just brads from the office supply section. And some nail polish, and make them any color you want them. Okay, before I put it on, it'll be easier for me to hold this on the table and trace it. So I'm going to do that. I didn't iron my fabric, but when you put it in the hoop makes it pretty tight and kind of takes those wrinkles out. You probably should iron it beforehand. But hey, this is no rules embroidery, because I have no idea what I'm doing. And yet, I had a really fun time doing it. Whoops, moved my Christmas tree. Get back over there. And then I do trace it with a pencil, because then if I have any pencil marks outside of my embroidery, I can erase them easily. So if you do it with pen, you're not going to get it off there. So, but you do just want to have your marks dark enough that you can see them. And there we go. There's our little Christmas tree. You see, like I have extra lines right here, and that's okay because I'm going to cover that up anyways. We'll just be sewing right across that. I'm just going to put this on here. And then to take this off, you had to loosen up this screw. And then to put it on, you'll tighten that screw up. So you want to kind of have your fabric a little bit tight push this down over top of your second one. Kind of make sure that it's all in there kind of tight, and then tighten it up a little bit. And then I kind of stretch it a little more because I've got these wrinkles in here. After I get it a little bit tighter, but not completely tight. Once you get it completely tight, you really shouldn't be able to stretch it. So that looks better. Maybe give it a little bit more of a pull. And you kind of pull down. You can't really pull out. You kind of pull down, and that's what stretches your fabric. And then tighten it all the way. And there we go. So now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to do this piece right this second. I'm going to start with the green. And because I'm not going to make my tree corrugated look like kind of like the, whatever you call that. And you're going to want a pretty long piece. And just make sure that you don't tangle it all up. I'm sure there's probably a way that you're supposed to undo that too, but I don't know that either. So there we go. Now, this has, if you go like this, you can see that there are 6 strands in here. And so if you do want to separate it, you just separate it like this and you start to pull, but you have to keep this tight as you pull, or otherwise it just starts to get all tangled. And you'll get to the point where, well, I'm going very slow and it's separating. Okay, see, I just got a knot right there. And then when you let go, it all twists up. So I will tell you what my mother taught me was, you go ahead and you stick the end in between your lips and hold on to it with your lips. And then just pull it through your lips as you go. And carefully, don't give yourself rope burn. And then that's how my mom used to hold it. So I'm going to tell you how my mom, she showed me how to do it. She was a really great embroiderer, but I never really picked up on it. See, it's just really hard to hold it in your hands. I don't know how else to do it, especially when you have a really long piece. So there we go. That's how you split embroidery floss. Now, because I want to do this fairly fast, I'm going to set those aside because I'll use them for something else that I want to put 2 colors with. I use the full piece because the full piece is thicker, and that way it covers more. And you can make it as long as you want it. You don't want to get it all tangled. So, you know, you don't want to make it so long that it will get tangled, but long enough that you're not having to, like, because you're using really long stitches, you don't want it to be too short or you'll be changing it every time. And then you're just going to take one of your needles that has a really big eye so that you can put it through the eye. And then you're not supposed to lick your thread, but I do sometimes, and with this I do, because then you can kind of squish it between your fingers. It kind of holds together, and then just part your fingers just a little bit till you can barely see it, and then push your needle down on top of it, and then you can grab it and you're good to go. Then I wrap it, or then I fold it over like almost in half so I don't have too much, so it's not super long, and I put a knot in it. So, and if you're an embroiderer, don't tell me you're not supposed to put a knot in it, because I do know that, but I'm not doing embroidery. I'm doing long stitching. That's different. In long stitching, you put a knot. See, I just made up a rule. Alrighty, and then all I'm going to do is I'm just going to start at one corner, and I'm going to go all the way across, just right straight across. And there we go. And then, now, in order to save embroidery floss, you can go up just a little bit further than where you came out at. You can't go right next to it because you might pull it back through. So I go up enough to put one more stitch in there and just kind of, okay, see, well, I'm showing you how I did on the back, like just a little bit away from this thread. You need to go up a little bit, but I have to do it from the front because I have to be able to see my pattern. So I'm going to go up just a little bit higher than that, right about there. And that might be a little too far. So that way I only wasted that much thread. If I came all the way back over here and came up and came back, then the back will look just like the front, which actually is not a bad idea if you're going to do something like a journal cover or something and you want it to see both sides. Now see, already there's my tail. So with the long stitching, it doesn't take long for you to use quite a bit of the embroidery floss, but you would really use just as much embroidery floss, I would think, even if you were making little stitches, unless you went back and forth like I was saying, you know, and making it the same on both sides. So now I just came, let's see, I came out here, and so now I'm just going to skip a little bit, not quite as much as the first time, skip a little bit, and go over to the other side. Okay, now I can come back down to here because I just came through here. That's where my thread is. Now I can come back down here, and I'm not going to come back out that same hole. So now I'm just going to come down one. Now you don't have to do this. You can just go round and round and round. You'll just use more thread that way. And this one, you know, if it's a little bit wide, you might have to go back through each of those places 2 times. And so you just do it till it's full. Sorry for hitting the camera. Get this thread out of here. I might want to do that again. So, and then I'm just going to come up to this one. Back down here. You just want to make sure you don't bring your needle right back up right next to where you just went through. And my tail's sticking out, so I have to figure out which side is my tail. Does it have a knot in it? No. There it is. And so there we go. And I just came down right here. Now, because I'm underneath that top thread, I can go right above that top thread. Because that's not where I was. And so, like I said, you can just skip little lines so that you don't have to go all the way around. Just skip a little bit. Starting to get a little bit wound up here. So if it starts doing that, just kind of let it hang down and let it untwist a little bit, because sometimes it gets a little bit wound around itself. Okay, now my gap is right here, but I just went down there, so I'm going to have to go up one more. Just leave a little gap. And leave a little gap on this side. And I'm just trying to find my tail to pull it out of there, make my tail shorter. Okay, now we were up there, so I can come underneath the one that's below that, where I still have a gap right here, and I have a gap here, but that's where I just went down. So I'm going to come up right over here. And now, if this is confusing, you can just go round and round and round. You just use more embroidery floss that way. When I did the circle, I started right in the middle of the circle. and I put a line right across the middle, and then I just put a line underneath and a line above and a line underneath and a line above, so it grew this way. And that way they were not next to each other. And I was just going up and down the side of that circle. And now I have another one here. And what I do is I do the whole thing like this. And then I go back and say, do I have a spot that I think needs to be filled in? And if I have a gap, this is easier to do when it's just sitting on your lap. I would just come up between those two. If I have a gap, then I just go ahead and put another stitch all the way across wherever I have a gap. I don't do that until I'm all done, because to me that's just the easiest way for me to do it. And there we go. Now I can come right back up above this other one because I was underneath of it. So I can come back up here. And now I'm back to where I'm going to have to leave a gap. And remember, you just want the gap to be about the width of a string. Don't forget to leave a little bit of a gap on the other side. Now I can't do the gap because I just came down right there and I can't go right next to it, so I'm going to go up another gap. And then go down on the other side. I'm going down here, so now I've got a string between me and that next gap. So I'm going to go back down there and do that one. Or you could just go all the way up, leaving a gap, and then turn around and come all the way back down, filling in those gaps. That would work too. I just thought of that. So I was just, as I was doing this the other day, it was kind of like as I was going all the way around, I was thinking, well, that's kind of a waste of thread because you're not really going to use the back unless you're making something double-sided. Now, if you were going to make like a Christmas ornament or something and maybe stiffen it somehow, you could go all the way around because then your Christmas ornament would be embroidered on both sides. And then you just have to be careful where you put your knots. Just try and like hide them a little bit. And now I'm back to the point where I'm going to have to start with the gaps again. So that's how you do it, and you're just going to go, I'll go just a couple more so we get to the next length. I'm going to have to skip. Move my thread. Okay, and now I came out this side, but now it's time to make my next line, so I'm not going to do another gap. I'm going to, whoops, can't do it from that side. I'm going to find my little point out here and do that one because I'm definitely not going to come up through that same hole by doing that. Go like that. Go all the way out here, and now I'm going to go in and fill in the gap that we had just made down here. Like that. And then there's kind of a gap here, so I'm going to go ahead and fill that in. One more line here. Oops, I just went all the way across to do that, which I didn't have to do, but I did. So there we go. And now we're just going to, you see I went all the way across. And now I'm just going to do the same thing all the way to the top. And then we'll decide, maybe we'll do the trunk in this peachy color. Or I could do it in the tan. The tan would probably be better. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to finish this all the way to the top. And then I'm going to come back and show you, we'll put a little bit of of decoration on our Christmas tree. So if you need to like see those stitches again, you can just kind of rewind to the first part of this, because I know you don't want to sit here and watch me do the whole thing. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to finish this tree, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back, and I have finished up the little tree, and I put the little stump on the bottom. I have it pretty much decorated. I just thought I'd show you how I decorated it. For what I've got here, they're just sequins with little beads holding them on, because a sequin only has one hole in the middle. So you just come up from the back, wherever you want it to be, put the sequin on your needle, just like that. Now you can just go over top of the sequin and come down on the other side, but I don't like the looks of the thread doing that, so I just go ahead and I just pick a bead, and then I can go through the bead and back down through that center hole, and it won't come undone. So I'll just pick one of these beads, and you could just put beads on here. You could put beads on a string and put them on here, and I've got the bead on my thread, and I'm going to get it out of my way. I'm just going to go right back down through that center hole in my sequin, just like that. And there we go. Now the bead's going to hold it. Now if the sequin goes underneath your threads, because they're long stitches, there we go, you just pick it back up again. And then just put a little knot in the back. Just catch a teeny bit of the fabric, and you're behind the sewing of the Christmas tree anyways, so it's not going to show. Whoops, I just unthreaded myself. It's not going to show on the front. You probably saw that. There's two pieces of thread here, so I want to keep them together. There we go. Okay, so by grabbing the fabric, that stitch is not going to show on the front. Just make sure that you don't grab your thread on the front. So just maybe go through a couple of times to make sure that you have a nice solid knot. You could also, if you want to, go touch the knots with just a tap of glue so that they don't come undone. And then you'll know that they're sturdy. Usually what I do, couldn't find my scissors, is I just cut my strings kind of long on ones that, like this one's I'm gonna do something with it. So more than likely that will be glued down and I won't have to worry about it. So there we go. There's the one that we just put on, and see it's under the thread just a little bit because we pulled it tight when we put the knot on it. So I'm just going to pull it back up above the thread, and there we go. And you can use all sorts of things. You can use sequins, you can use beads, you know, just anything that you have. This is all stuff we had in the stash. Remember when we made the bead? When we made the bead string that you can put on things like that or whatever, you can also use this to put it on your Christmas tree. And, you know, just sew it on there however you want it. Or you can just take beads and just sew them on like that so that they look like they're, you know, on a strand. You don't, but I would like the looks of this hanging on there because it would kind of move a little bit, you know, and kind of look not so solid. But this is not the colors for it, and I like the tree like this, except I want something at the top. And so at the top I'm just going to put a little crystal. You can also put pearls on there, and obviously these are not things to be sewn on. So what I would do, and I didn't bring the glue with me, so I'm going to put a little dot of glue on the back of that and just put that right at the top. A nice sparkly little tree top. So there we go. That's what our long stitching turned out like. I really like it. I think that'll make a cute little Christmas project. And so we've got that one. And then I just wanted to show you too, when I was talking about putting them in a frame, I really like my feather, and I'm going to frame that for myself. So I just found this frame in my closet. Whenever I have frames that I empty out, I just keep them. If I have old artwork that I don't want anymore, I just throw it in the closet, and then I just use the canvas again later. But so all I did was I just took the back out. This one has one of the backs that slide in and out. I just took this out, and I just copied a piece, or just traced around it on a piece of corrugated cardboard that I have, and just put that in there, and then I ripped my fabric around the feather till it was the size that I wanted it to go in the middle here. And what I'm going to do is I am just going to glue this right onto the corrugated cardboard. Now, if I didn't want to glue it, I could put some little brads in the corner. Let's see, I had a couple of, oh, here we go. I had a couple sequins here, which, you know, they're sequins, but just pretend they're brads. But see, wouldn't that look kind of cute with the brads in the corner? Put a brad through all four corners to hold it on. I'm going to glue behind my feather, and I might actually put some brads up in the top corners like that, and then I'm just going to kind of glue it down, and it's very wrinkly right here. Plus, you know, I just think I need a little more interest to it. So this was a little piece as I was cutting it. This piece was left over, and I thought, and I really like the way that this looks. I'm going to put this in here, like this, right across the bottom of my fabric, just to give me one more layer. So that's what it will look like then when I'm done with it. So that's what I was talking about when I said you can just frame them. This would look cute as a little Christmas, framed for Christmas. You can also, if you want, you can buy the hoops, and they're really not that expensive even at Walmart, but you can find them at secondhand stores, and you just do it like this and just kind of fold these things back, put a little ruffle lace around the edges, and you could give that to someone as a Christmas present. Now, it doesn't even have to be a Christmas tree. It could be something like the feather in a hoop that they could hang on their wall also. Used to do that a lot when I was younger. That was a big thing. Excuse me. So that is our long stitching. I like it. It's easy. It's fast. You know, that's just kind of the kind of thing that I like. I really appreciate you stopping by to watch this video. And for next week, we are going to need, we're going to need a cookie pan, and we are going to need a brush. The kind, it doesn't matter what you get. This is called a garage brush, but what you're looking for is something that has these individual little parts that are cut, that are stuck into the plastic like that, so that you can take that one bit and cut it out, you know, like as a whole thing. Like if you can see here, I've already cut some of them off. So that, because that's what we're looking for. We're looking for something like that. So so we need a brush. We need some little containers to hold our paint, and we need some super glue. Now, if you still have super glue left in your stash, you don't have to get that. And we need some elm. This is powdered elm. It is used for pickling. Oh, it says right here, ideal for pickling and canning. And this was $3.44 at Walmart. So we have $3.50, $4.50, $5.50, $6.50, $7.50. We had $85.50 in our bank after last week, so we're going to use $2.50 of that, and we'll be down to $83 in our bank. Now, the other things that we're going to need from our stash is we're going to need some of our yarn, we're going to need some of our paint, maybe some of our sprays, and we're going to need some paper. We're going to need some of our skewers. And the one thing that we're not going to buy, and it is not in our stash for the first time in this series, it's been almost 3 years, I'm going to say, we're going to use something out of our kitchen. At least I think it's the first time. Usually I buy everything because I always say, well, I don't know if anybody has it, but we're going to need some cornstarch. We only need 1 tablespoon of cornstarch, so I really don't see a point in buying a whole thing of cornstarch, but if you have to, they're $1. So, but this is what we're going to need for next week. We're going to spend $7.50, and we're going to need all of those different items, and we are going to need to add cornstarch to our list. We're going to need a tablespoon of cornstarch. And if you're in other countries, I know I had some friends here and they didn't have cornstarch in Europe, I think it was. And we kind of figured out it was kind of like corn flour. Cornstarch is a powder that you use to thicken gravy, and you use it for baking different things. So, but that's what we need for next week. This was this week's project. I hope that you enjoyed it. I had fun making them, and I think I'm going to be making some more because I really am enjoying doing this as I'm just sitting in the evening. And I'm going to maybe possibly get some fun stitches from Sonia Steptoe and, try some of those. Maybe I could use some to even decorate a tree. We'll see. But thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I appreciate you stopping by, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.